But risers of the week, we'll start with the main position on the field. Well, not really for fantasy, but QBs. Who's risen up your rankings this week, Pilch, in the QB slot?
I've gone big Justin Herbert. Pretty much a riser every week, but I mean, he just keeps pumping out over 20 points against everyone he plays, even some solid defenses like Denver last week. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to not have him in your top 8.
Yeah, every week they seem to just score between 25 and 35 points, and they're not really rushing for many touchdowns. He's throwing most of them. So, yeah, at the moment, he's looking like a guaranteed QB1, and they've got some pretty easy fixtures coming up. I was having a look at him before, and it's looking pretty juicy for him. So if there's anyone out there that needs a QB, maybe throw the kitchen sink at Herbert, because this is probably your last chance. Because I think he scored like 21 or something, which was pretty good. But I think from here on in, it's going to be strictly 25s. He's going to be operating on. Got high expectations for him. But yeah, Herbert, big riser. He's legit been a riser every week we've done this podcast, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, good shout. For me, this is a rogue one. I've actually gone Cam Newton. It sounds pretty crazy, but this is because he was pretty low on my rankings, so not too hard to rise. But he was a last-minute fumble. He had a fumble in the last drive, which cost the Patriots the game. But in fantasy terms, that's a -2 or whatever it is, and that put him under 20 for the. And that would have been the first time he cracked 20 since week 2. And I'm not saying he's back to that, first 2-week form, but he had his lowest completion percentage of the year, which you're thinking, oh, that's not good. He's in bad form. But he still managed to get 174 yards off on a horrible day in Buffalo. It was cold. It was wet. Everyone was just running. But more importantly, he had 54 yards on the ground with a rushing TD. So at this point, it is getting to kind of the stage where if he doesn't get a rushing TD, it's ropes for Cam Newton. But that's not even the worst situation. In a one QB league, I'm not sure how relevant he is, because I think nowadays he's a little bit away from being a QB1, but definitely in a QB2 or super flex league like ours, I definitely think he's not a bad second quarterback to have. But in a QB1, he's probably like, if you've got the worst QB rocking, he's probably not the worst going around. But yeah, he's found Jacoby Myers, who he seems to really like. He's had double-digit targets in the last 2 games, I think. And then N'Keal Harry's coming back from injury. They signed a wide receiver from the Dolphins, and the running game's starting to look a lot better with Damian Harris coming back from injury. So I'm not saying the Patriots are going to come out and start scoring 30 points a game, but I think things are on the up. I think Cam pretty much hit rock bottom after the COVID scare. So I think from here, it's going to be hard to see him continue doing as bad as he has been. So I think it's not a bad little situation for Cam. But yeah, as I said, if you have a 1 QB league, he's probably not that relevant, is he? But do you think Cam Newton's worthy of a QB1 spot or not?
Only against like bad defenses probably for now, but
yeah,
fair call. I think he's a riser as well, because he dropped down so low after last week.
Yeah, exactly. They've got the Jets this week as well, who you'd imagine they're scoring 3 touchdowns at least against, and there's not really anyone else to score them except for himself.
He'd be a good play this week, definitely.
Yeah. All right, fallers. Who have you got in the quarterback position?
Fallers, I've gone Josh Allen. Another pretty poor game from the big man against New England, who are known for being a good defense, but that's 2 games in a row now where he's looked quite poor, and I'd probably now take him out of that like top 5 elite tier for sure. He's probably around like 7 or 8 for me now, when he was top 4.
I agree with that. I actually might have him in a section later. We were talking before we came on air. There's a little bit of overlap going on with these sections, but definitely a fall. I think that's his 4th sub 20 score in a row after going the first 5 weeks. First 4 weeks, he was like just balling out.
And I believe he had a rushing touchdown as well.
Yeah, he did.
So that kind of saved him from having an absolute stinker.
Yeah, and Buffalo's offense right now is just in tatters. They're not really getting it going in the air or in the ground. So it worries in Buffalo in real life as well. They're just not playing that well. But hopefully, I'll talk about it in another section, as I said. But who knows? His fortune might turn. But yeah, 100% a faller, and yeah, not in that top tier at all anymore.
Yeah.
My faller is Carson Wentz. This is another guy who might come up in a later section. I don't know, because it is his first bad score in a while, but he whipped out an 8.62 against the Cowboys, including 4 turnovers. And this is the Cowboys, one of the worst defenses in the league this year. He had his 5th game with the completion percentage under 60. So it's pretty, like, he's got to be attempting a lot of passes to have a lot of passing yards at the moment with that completion percentage. But yeah, as I mentioned, he could be a buy low situation. But yeah, right now I'm not really sure if he's a top 12 quarterback. There's obviously a lot of better options out there, and safe options, I'd say. But their offense, they do have players coming back, so that should help Wentz. But yeah, right now it doesn't really matter who's on the park. He's just playing pretty bad, and similar to Cam Newton, it's kind of just a rushing touchdown or bust at the moment for Wentz. So yeah, not. I'd be quite worried if I was a Wentz owner and he was my QB1 at the moment. All right, running backs, riser of the week, mate.
I've gone real obvious here, but Dalvin Cook pumped
Yeah.
out 4 touchdowns against Green Bay. Kind of hard to rise when you're already a certified top 5 man, but I had him last out of that tier with like Kamara, McCaffrey, Henry, and Jones, and now he's probably second or third. So I'd definitely have him above Henry and Jones now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Cook is an absolute beast in that top echelon of running backs, and like it's just he's a must-have.
Yeah.
Like I would die to have Dalvin Cook at the moment. He's absolutely killing it. At the start of the season, I was a bit worried about him. Madison was getting a lot of touches, but that's kind of faded the last 2 weeks. And he's just taken over. And I think they've actually got pretty enticing fixtures coming up.
Yeah, they do.
And if they take the lead, well then Carson is game. It's game over for Cook. Sorry, not Carson. My riser of the week in the running back spot. I've gone for a pod. I haven't gone for a primo. I've got Damien Harris. Mentioned him before with Cam Newton, but you and me, we've been keeping a lot of fantasy experts. Well, not experts, players. We wouldn't call us experts, but yeah, we've been keeping an eye on him. Yeah, I actually would. We've been keeping an eye on him since his return from injury. And yeah, for the second time in 4 matches upon returning to the side, he's gone over 100 yards on the ground. He has had over 5 yards per carry in 3 of his 4 matches he's played. Red zone and receiving are what's limiting him from being like a starting option. I'd say at the moment he's not really involved in the air game because they just go to James White for everything. And then the red zone, he did score a rushing touchdown on the weekend, but I think he split red zone attempts with Rex Burkhead. But hopefully, as Harris is only young, I think he got drafted last year and then I think he missed the whole season last season due to injury. I'm not 100% sure on that though, but I know this is his first season of playing. And so, yeah, you'd hope as he continues to do well, he might start to take more of the red zone rushes away from Burkhead, and that would definitely spring him into starting running back contention. But at the moment, he's probably not in that tier. But given the amount of injuries in the running back position, I think due to his high floor with the amount of times he gets the footy on the ground, I think he's definitely worth picking up on the bench and definitely worth having a look at, because if their offense all of a sudden starts to hit their straps and they start moving the ball a lot easier, well then the red zone attempts are only going to increase. So I think he's a decent option, and they've got the Jets, the Ravens, and the Texans in the next 3. Some of them are a good run defense, but they will likely provide a good game script, and then some of the other, and then the Texans are a bit of both. So there's something in all 3 of those matches for Harris. So I'm very intrigued. I'm kind of tempted to get him myself at the moment, but yeah, I like Damien Harris a lot. Like the high floor he brings to the team. What about you for Faller of the Week here?
Yep, good shout there. Faller of the week. I'm finally putting him in the fallers. He's been pretty Boris all year, but Jonathan Taylor, he officially sucks at football. They played Detroit Lions, one of the worst run defenses in the league. He had like 12 carries for 20 yards. They bring on Wilkins. Wilkins just tortures them. He's in like the best situation you could possibly want as your fantasy running back. Best O-line in the league, getting 20 plus touches a game, but he's just doing absolutely nothing with them. And it's pretty safe to call him a flop now. Like I'll be looking to sell him this week, but no one will want him, so he'll probably be on the waivers.
Yeah, he's a faller for me as well. Before this week and before the bye, he had 2 weeks of 15 points, so that's not too bad. You'll take that, but yeah, this week he got out carried by Wilkins, and then including a red zone attempt, which is always not what you want to see when you think you've got a certified RB1. And yeah, the game script suited him perfectly as well.
Yeah.
Like they hit the lead pretty quick, and you thought they would have just started to run it, Taylor to run it down their throats, but he just couldn't get it going. And yeah, in the last 3 matches, he's had this is his carry totals. He's had 12, 12, and 11.
Yeah.
And if you compare that to the certified RB1s, they're getting a lot more than that. They're looking at 18, 20s. So yeah, I agree with you there. Taylor has definitely fallen a little bit. Do you think he's still worth a start? Like, do you think he's in the top 24 running backs in the competition?
Yeah, like I'll still be valuing him in there, all jokes aside. But this week against Baltimore, you can't really be starting him.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I don't think he's a buy low, but I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't he?
He honestly could be a buy low, depending what you.
Yeah, because he could. Like, I actually still think he's going to be their RB1, but
yeah, he should.
Like, I think he's still going to lead Wilkins in carries, but as I said before, yeah, just 12, 11, 10 carries. You don't really want those numbers, do you? No. Especially when he's not going like Sam Fran yards per carry numbers.
Most of those previous weeks where he was getting no carries was because of game script. Like the Bengals, they went down 21-0 in the first quarter. But this was the first week where he had all the perfect scenarios going for him, and he cocked it up. So
yeah, but I think Wilkins is questionable for this week, so that might be worth having a look at. But as you said, it is a tough matchup, but who knows? All right, my wide receiver riser of the week, I've gone Corey Davis. I think he actually does he still sit on the waivers in our league?
I picked him up today. I dropped Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not really confident him being on the waivers, but kind of like my wide receivers. But yeah, second game with 10 targets in a row. He had 10 targets last week as well. Caught his third touchdown in 5 matches, and he's got a pretty tough run of fixtures, but I was looking at those teams they've got, and they're all pretty good run defenses, which means they're likely going to, well, if it's possible to, they're likely going to limit Derrick Henry, which means the Titans will have to start throwing more than they like to, and that's only going to see Davis increase targets, and also the game script will probably start to suit them because they aren't in the greatest of form in the last 2 weeks. They have played 2 decent sides. Well, the Steelers are a great team, and the Bengals have been in good form. But yeah, they've got a few tough games in there, so it wouldn't shock me if in a couple of them they go down early and have to just start throwing it. So I think Davis and Brown will both benefit from that. So yeah, for me, he's a big riser this week. And yeah, it was probably pretty rude that he didn't get picked up in the initial waivers for this week, but I didn't pick him up, so I can't really talk. But yeah. Is he your riser of the week? If you've gone someone else,
I've gone someone else, but definitely agree he is a riser. I've gone with. I'm finally buying into Travis Fulgham. I think this was Jalen Reagor came back and Fulgham remained as the clear alpha, and he still balled out, and he hasn't gone below I think 14 points since he debuted like 6 weeks ago, and he's generally copping like minimum 8 targets a week. So, I mean, there's a lot to like, and he's got a very good fixture going forward. I think the Eagles have one of the easiest remaining schedules in terms of passing defenses. So, I think he's a big riser and someone you could probably buy low, considering he's still a bit of a myth, and his name's Travis Fulgham.
Yeah, interesting. That's very interesting. I might be contradicting that later, but we'll see. My faller of the week is my man, you formerly your man, Deontay Johnson. Um,
Mm.
Last week he returned, well, had his first game where he was fully fit, basically, and he went for 15 targets, absolute beast against the Titans. And then this week he left us owners with three targets, one catch, and the catch came in like the last 2 minutes, I'm pretty sure. So it was against a good defense, and he's got better fixtures to come. But yeah, for me right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver core is it's very hard to trust with fantasy. It's almost like the San Francisco backfield.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
one week Claypool's getting 10 targets, Washington gets 10 targets, bloody Juju gets 10 targets, Deontay gets 15. Like Deontay, in my opinion, is still the best fantasy option quite comfortably, but
Yep.
um, yeah, it's starting to look a bit bleak for all of their hopes as they have kind of started to take each other out.
The bloke keeps
Um,
doing injuries mid game as well. Pretty
yeah,
sure
he
he,
did miss it.
yeah,
He missed like 5 minutes or something in the first quarter, but yeah, not ideal. And there was a defensive pass interference on like a 60-yard bomb that he could have got to, but yeah, not ideal at all. Three targets, you'd be liking a lot more from someone who you're starting. Well, I started. Almost cost me my fixture. Cheers, brother. Who's your wide receiver in the faller category?
DJ Chark. He's been pretty poor recently, but now that Gardner Minshew has fractured his thumb or whatever he did, and he'll miss some time, Chark is pretty much irrelevant in my opinion while Minshew's out, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, you can't really start him anymore at all.
Yeah, I was pretty low on
He's
Chark
become a bit of a myth actually.
because Keelan Cole and Laviska Shenault have both had great volume this year, and like, yeah, I've been pretty low on Chark. Like, I think when did my rankings 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was down with like Michael Gallup in like the 60s, but yeah, nah, not keen on him at all. Rate that call. Game script might suit them, but if you've got a guy who's not the greatest at throwing, it doesn't really matter who if what the score is. It's just not going to be good signs for them. And James Robinson pretty much does everything for them these days. But yeah, good call. Tight end riser of the week. I've got probably another weird one, but Evan Ingram. He's finally strung together two decent performances, which he's been struggling with this year. He's had a couple good ones, and then he always backs it up with a stinker. But he finally, last week he had 9 targets. This week he had 10 targets against two really good defenses as well. And their offense is starting to lift in general. They were right in there with Tampa, scored 23 points against arguably the league's best defense. So red zone chances should increase for him as they play some easier teams coming up. But yeah, I think Ingram has risen up my rankings because he was starting to get pretty low on them. But I still think he's a tight end one. And yeah, someone who I wouldn't mind having in my side. Who's your riser of the week?
Yep, good call there. I've gone TJ Hawkinson. I think he might have been my riser last week,
Hawk.
but I reckon he's now that especially now that Kittle's gone, I reckon he's the number 4 man
Ooh.
behind Kelsey, Waller, and Andrews going forward. Fant and the Gronk may have something to say about it, but I'd probably take the Hawk over them three. He's actually like he pumps out like 12 every week, which is exactly what you want. You don't want any of this 20 or 3 bullshit. You just want a bit of consistency, and that's exactly what the Hawk brings to the table.
Yeah, we called it, didn't we, mate? There was
Yeah,
about
we love the Hawk.
Yeah, there was like 3 blokes who were in the preseason rankings from about like 14 to 17, but you kind of just knew like one or two of them were going to go beast this year. Well, that was my rankings anyway, and yeah, one of them was the Hawk, but we both knew there was a pretty strong chance he was going to break out this season. So yeah, good on the Hawk. Well done to the owners who picked him up. They're laughing at the moment. He's probably arguably better than Andrews these days, but
Yeah,
yeah.
genuinely true.
My faller of the week is, I think you actually rate this guy a lot higher than I do, but it's Jonnu Smith. He's recently been dropped to the waivers in our league, and you think well, I don't know what you think about the decision, but you're saying someone who our Kittle owner should definitely pick him up, and they've got their tight end sorted. But I'm not sure about that because he's had his third sub 5 point performance in a row. 8 targets across 3 matches, and in the first month of the competition, he had 7 or more 3 times, and now he's hardly got that in 3 weeks. He's got some pretty rough fixtures to come as well, and I know I was saying the game script will suit like for Davis, but yeah, Jonnu, just not sure about it. I think at the moment, like a lot of tight ends, he's back to just relying on touchdowns and against like the Colts. And I can't remember who else they've got coming. I think they've got the Ravens to come. Colts twice. It's going to be tough to see them scoring a lot of points. So, yeah, for me, Jonnu is no longer a tight end one. I think there's a lot of juicier options, like Albert.
No, don't know about that, but
yeah, don't know about that either. But yeah, he's my faller. What do you think about that?
He's my faller as well.
Oh, beautiful
for the exact reasons you've just said. But the reason I said the Kittle owner should pick him up is because the tight ends are pretty Boris this year, and he's lost Kittle. He had no backup. So out of everyone, I was checking our waivers, and there's not really anyone to go for apart from like Jared Cook, who is also reliant on touchdowns. So I reckon he's
I'd rather Tonyan, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's who Tyler got for Jonnu.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Fair play. I think we've done pretty well there. Enjoyed it as always. Now on.
It's a miracle. Oh yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable. Balotelli, Aguero. Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle.